Venezuelan concert pianist Clara Rodriguez plays solo and chamber concerts all around the world. She's renowned for her interpretations of South American music, and she's Professor of Piano at the Royal College of Music's Junior Department here in London, so I'm delighted to welcome her today for a classical conversation here at Steinway Hall. Welcome.
Thank you, Melanie. It's lovely to see you here.
It's lovely to be talking to you.
And yes, I still remember playing for your launch of your...
Yeah, that was wonderful. That was such fun.
That was very nice. Yes.
I want to start by asking you all about your musical education. What age were you when you started, and what was the catalyst, and whether you come from a musical family?
Right. My father was a writer, but my mother had learned music when she was young, and she kept in touch with her piano teacher, who was a very well-known composer from Venezuela, Moises Moleiro,
Okay.
by whom I've played Joropo or Joropo a few times. And she introduced me to music and took me to music school, because in Venezuela you go to your normal day school and then in the afternoon you go to music school or do different activities. So yeah, music was around, but there aren't any musicians in my family. So I really loved music school. The atmosphere was great. Being in touch with fantastic musicians and really, friendly people was great. Mm. So I think that was, what drew me to music. Yeah.
So which teachers then do you think were most crucial in your development as a pianist?
Well, from the beginning I had Guiomar Narvaez, a Venezuelan concert pianist. She studied in Venezuela and also in Vienna. And she was very strict, didn't give me, too many compliments or anything like that. But you get used to that sort of thing, and I never needed that, actually. And it was actually embarrassing if someone said that something was good. So that was very good. And in those music conservatories in Venezuela, you follow a program. A little bit like the Associated Board exams here, except that they are more academic in a way. You have to present a number of Czerny studies a year, or Hanon studies a year.
That's interesting.
Bach inventions, or 2-part, 3-part inventions that no one seems to play anymore. And so on and so forth. English suites, French suites, preludes and fugues. So that was
my next question. How did you develop your technique? But you obviously played a lot of Czernys and Hanons.
And Bach.
And
Mozart sonatas, of course. All the classical sonatas. Maybe you might not play them at a very, very high standard, I don't know, but I cannot remember now. But you certainly had to learn the whole sonata, not just one movement.
Just one movement, yes.
And you had to do about 3 sonatas a year, plus impressionist works, contemporary and Venezuelan or Latin American music. Mm-hmm. So in July, the teacher used to give me this list of works that you had to do, plus at least one concerto, Cesar Frank variations. So
quite a lot to get through.
Yeah, you had to get through a lot of music.
Yes. And
3 exams per year. So.
God. Then you came over to study here in the UK.
Yes, it was fantastic. There was an invitation to audition for, I'm sure you remember them, the 2 directors of college at the time, yes. Michael Goff-Matthews and Barbara Boisart, went over to Venezuela. Oh, okay. And I took part in these auditions. You had to play some pieces, scale, sight reading, oral, harmony and all that. And we were given a scholarship, to come to the Royal College.
Wonderful.
So that was really very, very nice.
Yes, and you studied with Venezuelan?
Exactly. So Barbara Boissart, when she heard me, and Michael Goff Matthews thought, oh, she's a good one for Phyllis Selig. And I'm so grateful to them for having thought of that.
Yes, I can imagine.
So then, a few months later, I was in London, and it was fantastic, beautiful experience, and I was really made welcome in this country, and there was a lot of warmth from the people I met here.
Sure.
I was really well looked after, but perfectly, and so that's why I'm still here.
Yes, of course. Did you take part in a lot of competitions as a young pianist, and do you more crucially, do you still feel that they're important for young pianists today? It's quite a debate now, I think, whether it's a good way of establishing yourself.
I'm afraid I didn't take part in many competitions. It wasn't in my culture or ego, or for me, I just the most important was to be able to play a piece of music really well. So if it took me a long time, it didn't matter. So I wasn't in that frame of mind. But I know people whose careers just took off from winning major competitions.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think I was made for that, I wish I had been, but no. So I admired a lot people that knew what they wanted and went for that. And nowadays I can see in young people, very ambitious young people, excellent talents, and well, it's a way of getting somewhere. Getting, I suppose, I don't know if it still works like that. It's.
I think for some people probably.
Right.
But I think the argument is there's so many competitions these days. It's hard to know which.
Of course.
Which will be the most helpful, I guess.
I know, and opportunities are very few,
limited.
Yeah. So the most important thing for me, and that's the problem, isn't it? The most important thing is personality, musical personality. If someone has the technique, but also has, knows what to say, what to do. I think the worst thing, and something I don't like, is ego. Ego coming through. Ego, when the ego is more important than the music. That doesn't work for me. And I don't know if people, the general public, realizes that. Probably they do. So it's a difficult one. Yes, but if you're an artist, you look for depth, and you want to approach music through history in a way.
Yeah.
And because what we do is very much related to history, and we're lucky to have so much to go back to, and
yes.
So many recordings to listen to, old recordings and so on. And also there's a freedom of repertoire now that is fantastic, because I organised a festival in Caracas in August this year, and I invited a few very young pianists, and many of them played pieces I had never heard before. Many composed their own pieces.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they're very good pieces. for me that's really amazing and
Yeah.
important, and will, pick up the attention of the public.
Yes. So which composers do you love to play?
Well, I would say all.
All.
All composers.
But you've made a special study of South American music.
Yes.
You're renowned for that, and obviously that's partly your heritage, but what really attracts you to that style? Because it is quite different, I think, from mainstream.
Yes, true. A few things sort of pushed me towards that style. As I said, when I was young, I couldn't stand that music. I didn't like folk music of any kind.
That's interesting.
I didn't like salsa. I didn't, I just got the giggles when I heard something I didn't like. But because I was very much into Bach, Debussy, Mozart, Beethoven, those were, and Chopin. That was my life, and
So what changed
anything
then?
outside that was not good for me. And then, actually, when I started thinking, I'd like to make a recording, the record company at the time sort of said to me, look, you should record these pieces we've heard you do, Venezuelan pieces. And that's what I did. That's why I recorded Moises Moleiro, who was my mum's piano teacher.
That's interesting, yeah.
And that was my first CD. And I loved doing that.
Yes.
Also in Venezuela, the classical musicians tend to enjoy very much playing their Venezuelan music, folk music. And you hear the most fantastic versions of folk music or songs,
Right.
played by classically trained people. I mean, there's a few examples, like the leader of the Paris orchestra right now is a Venezuelan violinist, and Alexis Cardenas. And he plays Venezuelan music beautifully, popular Venezuelan, and
Okay.
a little bit of jazz in it. And the thing is that folk music from Venezuela is very difficult to play. There are all these off the beat.
I can imagine, yes.
Rhythms and hemiolas, and and it's very fast. It's either very, very fast or waltz style, sort of bit slower, but always very interesting and very rich and extremely happy. You will just feel great just by listening to some Venezuelan music. And so, I started getting close to that music through this idea of making recordings. Because I think the English are very welcoming, very warm, as they said, but also they are very good at making you understand something about your own culture. It's
That's
not
interesting.
as probably in the States or something where everybody has to become Americanized.
Okay. Yes.
Here it's different. So I think I was encouraged.
Because you've established an ensemble too of playing Latin American music.
Yes,
and,
that was a lot of fun. Yes.
So what kind of repertoire and where do you play?
Well, I've done that here in at the Purcell Room or Bolivar Hall, different halls here. And but in Venezuela also I've done quite a lot of concerts with different musicians, especially with this ensemble called El Cuarteto. And it's 4 very well established, classically trained musicians, of choir conductor, flutist, double bass player, and guitarist. And one of them actually was one of the founders of IRCAM in Paris, contemporary music.
Yes.
So nothing to do with the Venezuelan music we play together, but it's just something. They're so fantastic, these guys. They've been playing together for over 30 years. So it was great that they adopted me to play. It's chamber music, but Venezuelan music, with the piano. And here I've created, as you said, this ensemble with a flute player as well, Efrain Osher, who lives in Germany. It's difficult to get them together because the mandolin player lives in Paris, the double bass player lives in Spain, and the percussionist lives here. So we get together and we do more Latin American music. Some Venezuelan music, but we have also included music from Haiti,
right.
Colombia, Cuba, Brazil, lots of Argentinian tangos and other genres. So it's very, very fulfilling and it's fun.
Yes,
and
I can imagine.
For me, I call it the syncopation school. They teach me to keep in rhythm.
I bet.
It's a very good school,
Yeah.
and you never stop learning, and you have to just you have to keep going and keep up.
Do you have a particular practice regime?
At the moment, I would say it's more like slim regime. I haven't done much recently, but it depends. It depends on the work, and unfortunately, life takes you away from the piano quite a lot sometimes, and when you have a family and so on,
and you're busy teaching as well. You teach
yes, I teach. I do some teaching, yes, but when I have concerts, I just prepare hard for the concerts. I like to look at different repertoire all the time, and people send me lots of compositions, new compositions. So I look at them, and if I'm hooked, I will play them. And I like to play new things.
Yes.
I don't like to play always the same pieces. So I take risks.
Important. Which venues have you loved playing in? What's been your favourites?
Oh God, any venue that has a lovely piano.
Okay.
And a lovely audience, is fine. It's great.
So, what are your exciting plans for the future? What have you got coming up?
Well, I've got some concerts outside London coming up, and I should be working on some recordings, new recordings. I'm playing at St. Martin in the Fields in January. I played there last year as well.
And is that a Venezuelan music, or is that a more mixed program?
Mixed. Yeah, Appassionata,
Okay.
Sonata, and Bach as well. I haven't played Bach actually for a long time in public, so I'm doing that.
That'll be interesting.
Yes, and yeah, I'm organising some festivals and things.
What does playing the piano mean to you?
Yes, the piano is life. It's funny because you might see an object that is lifeless, but when you really think about it, the way it's made, it's very natural. It's wooden, wood, felt, and well, sometimes a little bit of ivory.
Yes, sometimes.
So, and metal. So it comes from the earth. It's earthy, and it's when you get the harmonics sounding, it's air, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's life from that point of view, but from a psychological point of view, the piano is a kind of tunnel. You go in and you explore sentiments and feelings and experiences that only through the piano you can reach. So it's vital.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Clara.
Thank you. Thank you.